Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. I am one of your co-hosts, King Ajar,
And I am Billy.
and we have a lot to cover this week. We're recording on a little bit of a delay. Logistics issues prevented us from recording yesterday. But before we get into this week's episode, I want to tell everybody out there, thank you for the continued support. We really, really appreciate it. And
Yes, we do.
please, whether you listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Samsung, Amazon, RSS, and Apple Podcasts, make sure you subscribe to whatever platform you listen to us on. Subscribe. That way you'll get notified of when the newest episode drops. And it'll also help us grow our audience because with podcasts, it's all about the subscriptions. So you don't even have to like us, but we just would appreciate if you subscribe. So thank you so much.
If you subscribe, we're more likely to end up in the searches for other fans looking for women's wrestling content, and that's what we're here to provide for.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to start this week with a little bit of history.
Oh yeah.
On Wednesday night, AEW had Grand Slam Mexico out of what is effectively known as the Cathedral of Professional Wrestling, which is Arena Mexico in Mexico City, a home of CMLL, which is the oldest wrestling promotion that is still active in the world.
Yeah.
And on that show, which was 2.5 hours, Mercedes Moné won another title. And this time it was the CMLL Women's World Championship. She beat Zeuxis. Is that how I pronounce the name?
Zeuxis.
Zeuxis. Okay, so apologies. In what was a pretty good match, a decent match, nothing spectacular. It was okay.
Love
Um,
the finish.
I think the finish was very clever, and I think the after the match interaction between her and Timeless Tony Storm, who was playing the role of Carmen Sandiego this week, came out with the red trench coat, suplexed her, and all six belts went flying like sonic rings, which was
So
fantastic.
good.
Great
Yeah.
visual. 2 days later, Mercedes had her first title defense in the same Arena Mexico against one of your favorites, which is La Catalina.
Yep.
And I thought they had a really good TV match. They did not get that much time. I believe it was about 13 and a half minutes between introductions and the announcement of the winner. Mercedes did retain with her patented moneymaker into the Banks statement or the statement maker transition. Um, before I give you my thoughts on the match, what did you think of the match? This has kind of been your dream match.
Yeah, so I called this match in Arena Mexico on our New Year's episode. We did a predictions and for the year, and I thought La Catalina would have won the CMLL title already, and Mercedes was going to take it off of her in Arena Mexico. Um, that's why I predicted the match, but nonetheless, we got it instead as Mercedes' first defense. I thought it was a very good match. Reading some of the kind of tapped in lucha sites out there, Lucha Blog is a really good Twitter account to follow if you're interested in CMLL or AAA. This was a ninth match on the Fantastic Mania card, which usually has 8 matches, and it was added late. So there was a worry that it actually would get sub 10 minutes. So the 13 minutes, I guess I was in the moment a little happy with. I thought it was a really good match. It was, I mean, it's the type of match how Ric Flair made his legend, if we're being honest. Um, Mercedes going into the backyard of the hometown hero. Um, La Catalina was over at the beginning of the match. She was over like Rover, as you say.
Yeah.
By minute 11 and 12, I thought they really got the crowd going into the match, really, really behind La Catalina, and I just think she has a lot of potential. So I enjoyed seeing Mercedes in her element as the kind of dastardly heel. She did the Eddie Guerrero lean back on the ropes and smoke a cigarette kind of taunt. She flipped off the crowd. She was having a lot of fun. I thought it was a good match. Um, I watched it. You know, I subscribed specifically to CMLL to watch this match. I've been asking for it for months, so definitely had to log in for it, and I've watched it twice now. So I thought it was a really good match, like that kind of a quintessential solid four for me. Um, Actually, one of Mercedes' best near falls ever. Maybe her, you know, you could suspend the disbelief that she would lose the belt 2 days later. It was probably the closest she ever kicked out. Call it a 2.995 on a was One Winged Angel.
One,
Uh
one, one winged angel. She kicked out at 2.99. And yeah, I thought that it was, I actually thought the Jamie kick out was closer. When Jamie gave her the mini the Saturday night
yeah.
special. Or
What I
the
love
era.
about the Jamie kick out though was it was almost a lifeless kick out, so it's very unique. Um if I guess if Mercedes would have waited that late on this one, she would have been too late. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's just a different way. But she did the full kick out on this one. But no, I enjoyed the match. Um, there, you know, there's been some rumblings from that area of the internet about how many belts Mercedes has and all that. And by the way, that's the point, to get fans that love her to love it and follow along, and everyone else should be like so over it and want to tune in to see who finally beats her.
Yeah.
But I looked it up, and this is an ongoing trend for anyone that thinks that she's not putting a spotlight on these belts and these women. This was La Catalina's highest graded match on Cage Match ever. And she's wrestled plenty of greats. She's wrestled Stephanie Becerra several times. Um, it's her highest rated match ever. It is the most rated match ever. That's important. I'll come back to that. Kanji from Rev Pro, her match with Mercedes is her highest rated match ever. It's her most rated match ever. Mila from EWA, it's her highest rated match and it's her most rated match. Um, I think that one, you know, I think people are rating that match that didn't see it. But the point I'm making is with like La Catalina, um, Zeuxis, the Mercedes matches with her aren't her greatest rated matches ever, but they are some of her highest. The most people have voted on it. And the point I'm making with this is you've got people dialed into what La Catalina is doing, what Zeuxis is doing, what Kanji was doing, learning who Mila Smith is, that didn't know them and or didn't pay attention to what they were doing before. And that's kind of the whole point of this belt collector run. Um, but I was on Cage Match just looking through some of that stuff, and you've got, you know, 270 people have already rated this La Catalina match, which is far and away more than most, you know, more than anything that she has out there. The Kanji match, I think, has like 600 plus people have voted on that match. So um, most of her matches are in the 20s and 30s as far as the amount of people that have voted on it. Um, so it's just that greater exposure for women's wrestling, and that's what I'm enjoying about what Mercedes is doing. Um, Last thing before I kick it back to you, I think the CMLL title is the coolest one that she's won outside of AEW. Um, it's very old. The company's very old. Um, Bull Nakano has held this title. Correct me if
Mhm.
I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, she has.
So there's a lineage here. I love the NJPW lineage on both the strong and the IWGP belt. Those are shorter lineages, but it's all sluggers, all, you know, all elite, pun intended. Um, but this CMLL belt has a really rich history. But you know, I've
Yeah, no, you know,
Waxed poetic long enough. What did you think?
Conjeo Mundial de Lucha Libre. That's what CMLL is, which in Spanish means, or in English means World Wrestling Council. So that's what it means.
Yep.
It's been around, for almost 100 years, and it's, I mean, it is okay. So I have a couple of, before I get to the match, I have a public service announcement here. Number one, I do think that wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, Madison Square Garden, and Arena Mexico are very legitimate all-time wrestling venues. I do not think Wembley Stadium is. And it drives me crazy every single time I see a tweet about Wembley Stadium, which has held 3 wrestling events ever: SummerSlam 92 and the 2 AEW shows. 7 women total have had the opportunity to wrestle there. I wouldn't consider that an elite all-time arena. The Chicago Rosemont Horizon, now I don't even know what the name of it is anymore. That's more historic. Maple Leaf Gardens. Hell, the Rogers Center, where I have seen 2 WrestleManias, is more historic than Wembley Stadium because it also has the most attended Monday Night Raw of all time at 46,000 people, which I attended. So my point here is I get the Wembley Stadium thing, but it's not like if you want to say, hey, holding a belt in Japan and Mexico and America at the same time is historic, I agree. I agree with the 3 arenas. I do not agree with Wembley Stadium. So now let me get.
Maybe there's just some London representation there as the other kind of the European hotbed. So would you
Right.
go O2 Arena then?
I would go O2 Arena then. I would go O2 Arena before I'd go Wembley Stadium. But I think part of this problem is that it's actually WWE's problem, which is they hardly ever did big shows in London when they were kind of the only game in town. And I just always thought WrestleMania should have been in Wembley a long time ago. So hopefully Wembley gets more shows and then it can get up there. But that's not what this is. So one of the things I've learned about 3 women specifically, Io, Stephanie, and Mercedes, is if you are not going to watch their match live, you cannot follow it on Twitter or X because it's either it's the greatest match ever and it's the absolute best thing you've ever seen, or the people who don't like the 3 will say it's overrated, it's not good, whatever. So when I didn't get to watch it live, I stayed off of my account as much as I could. Little story here. I live in El Paso. Everybody knows that. Juarez is the border. If you take off your cable or your satellite or whatever you use and you use your antenna, I can get CMLL Friday nights for free. So that's actually how I watched it the first time. The second time I actually did, I did use somebody's subscription. They allowed me to, and I got to watch it again. But I did watch it twice, like you. So I actually really liked the match. I definitely think Catalina is a star. To put it this way, if you can't get Stephanie Vacour, she's the next best Latin women future superstar in the world. Obviously Stephanie is Stephanie, but Catalina has a lot of potential. I have one real nitpick with this match. Everything else I actually liked about it. So they do the spot on the ring apron where she tried to, I think, did Mercedes try to give her a power bomb or a pile driver? Yeah, pile driver. It was a pile driver.
Yep.
And then Catalina reversed it, pushed her into the post, gave her the pedigree on the apron. Now remember, this is Catalina, who is the babyface, who before the match did a interview on Mexican TV saying how this is her lifelong goal to get this title. She's been wanting it for 2 years. Okay. So she gives her a pedigree, knocks her out cold. Instead of rolling back into the ring to pin her like what an intelligent babyface would do, she said, no, let me try to be Triple H. Let me get the bottle of water and let me then do the worst water spit of all time. And then as she turns around, she got kicked in the face by Mercedes. So for that spot alone, I am nitpicking it a little bit because it was the dumbest babyface thing I've seen until I watched Raw, with the Lyra Bailey Becky thing. And I was like, wait, don't you want to win the title? Why are you showboating on the ring apron when she's knocked out? So that's my one fault about the match. I did what I really enjoyed about the match. Now let me get to the really a lot of positive. Very hard hitting, very physical. I loved the fact that Mercedes was healing it up. From the moment she came out, she played the old school, yeah, Ric Flair, Tully. I looked at her performance more Tully Blanchard than I did Ric Flair.
Okay.
Yes, he came out with the pomp and circumstance of the titles, but she was an ass giving the finger to the crowd. You know,
She wasn't really a chicken shit heel. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
she
right.
was really Tully Blanchard. Like she was just a bad girl, and she was great at it. And I have long maintained that I don't know. Now you know what? Yeah, why am I sugarcoating it? I do think she's the best heel woman of all time as a wrestler. I think the overall best heel woman's character is Stephanie McMahon, but I think she's the best wrestler, like in the ring to get a fans to turn on her. I think she's the best. Not that she was A+ in this role. It took the crowd like 3-4 minutes to really get into it, but once they got into it, they were really hot for the match. And my only thing is, who does she lose to? Because I thought, watching a little bit of CMLL, that Catalina was going to be the person that got the rub.
So I have a prediction. Well,
Okay.
there's two paths. Um, Persephone, I think, has been built up pretty strong and young talent that I could see her losing to. I don't I don't know that this first challenger she has for every belt is where she's going to come back and lose it to. I don't think that's the case. Um, I do think she'll end up losing that EWA belt to Mila Smith. Um, I think the Triple H spot, the pedigree spot, uh, Catalina's 25 years old. And I think that some of that is going to be she's been trying to do this for 2 years and immaturity still, held her back. And she kind of blew it in that moment. I would bet that when it comes back around, Mercedes will end up losing to Catalina, would be my bet. That she'll lose this belt to Catalina when it comes back. Not maybe in her next defense or anything, but I think that's going to be where we land on here.
So
Um,
okay.
she signed a 3-year contract with CMLL.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've long been advocating that AEW needs to sign Catalina. There's still a chance she could do a dual contract like Takeshita does, and CMLL would allow that. It's WWE that doesn't allow that, right? So I still could see her being a bigger player in AEW kind of going forward, but she just re-upped. She said that in an interview like a month ago. And a lot of people thought she was going to beat Stephanie for the belt. So, like, she's due. I I think this is her last mountain, right? Like, I think they've got to build her outside of this, and when she gets a shot at Mercedes again, she won't miss next time.
Stephanie didn't lose that belt, didn't she? Vacate it.
She did. She
Okay.
wouldn't drop it to Tessa
Well, I mean, clearly
Amo.
she didn't drop it to anybody, right? Because she kind of
Oh
knew.
shucks, we need a third Stephanie Mercedes match to see who
Yeah,
the real CMLL champion is. Darn it.
that would be great business for AEW and CMLL, but I have this hard time believing it'll happen. No, I thought, like I said, I love Mercedes and the heel character, and getting back to the bigger topic here, which is, yeah, there's been a lot of just chatter and noise and scuttlebutt about her and all these belts. They're meaningless. Like, she's winning meaningless belts. She's not helping the AEW women's division. She's not growing the audience. She's not putting butts in the seats. I mean, I've read, I don't know, hundreds of comments, getting ready for the show. And, it made me realize that, I mean, I don't know when it was, maybe 6-7 months ago, you made a comment to me. You said, look, I think whether it's Io or Rhea or Stephanie, they don't get the hate and the vitriol that Mercedes gets. Like, she gets it to a degree that no active current women's wrestler gets. Um, and I don't, I know you are more knowledgeable about how cage match works than I am, and you really kind of know how that whole thing is calculated. But Mercedes is not. There's so many women who have a higher ranking than Mercedes on cage match. Io,
Hmm.
Asuka. There's a bunch, right? Every single Joshi wrestler in Japan have higher ratings, and I don't know if that's because people legitimately think they're all better than Mercedes, or is it people just don't like her? I don't know. And to me, I don't really value the cage match rankings in that aspect, because to your point, I can disguise my hate easily by just saying, yeah, I understand why people like Mercedes, but I don't think she's that great, and give her a 6. And you can't really say I hate her, but it's kind of wink wink, I hate her and I got it registered, right?
And you know where the proof. So you know we talk about it a little bit. Both of us, numbers are our big part of how we make our living. Um, Velocity is how you can see Mercedes hate on the internet. It's the velocity and the amount of comments when a wrestling news or podcast posts something about her. There's a rush of positive comments, there's a rush of negative comments. It's the same thing on cage match. So all these wrestlers that have these pristine 9 or better ratings overall, the amount of votes they have is way less per year than Mercedes. Mercedes gets a lot of votes every year. Got a lot of people in the crew voting 9 and 10, 9 and 10, and you got a lot of people who are disguising pretty well, but they're not. Why are hundreds of people voting on how they feel about Mercedes and not all these other wrestlers? You know what I'm saying? The point I was making earlier about Catalina, Kanji, the amount of votes on these matches. Here's another great way to look at it. At the time of their first match and their second match, the Willow Mercedes match was the most voted on match of Willow's career the first time through. And then the second time through, it surpassed that. And only since then did the street fight with Chris and then the Anarchy in the Arena has more votes. And then Stephanie, her first 2 matches with Mercedes, again had the most votes. She just have a lot of people going in there with an opinion about Mercedes, which is frankly a business driver. You can never say people don't care, because if someone logs on the internet to tell you that they don't care in a comment 45 times, they care. They care probably more than we do as fans. It
So
bothers the hell out of them.
I've long said this to our mutual friend Mike, who's enjoying himself in Italy.
Yep.
And I have long told Mike that Mercedes Moné's fan base, Sasha Banks' fan base, the crew, is a gift and it's a curse. Because when there is a fan base for her, that we're a part of, and I have traveled to see her wrestle multiple times in my life, whether it's WrestleMania 32, whether it's Albuquerque, New Mexico, whether it's Nashville with you came here. I've been to Los Angeles to see her wrestle Charlotte in the main event.
The Momo match in
Momo
DC.
match, yeah, the Momo match in DC. I forgot about that one. Here's where I'm going with this. So Mercedes has a lot of fans. There's no denying that. She has a ton of fans. She drives conversation, right? She always says, I'm the conversation. But when you do that, you're also going to be equally hated. She's polarizing. She's not,
Yeah.
I would not say she's beloved, and I would not say she's hated. I would say she's polarizing. If you're on her bandwagon, you're all in on her bandwagon. You are like, and I've told Mike and I've told others that I feel like sometimes we as the crew ride for her so hard, we turn people in the middle against her, whether we want to or not, or do we even care. I don't think we care, because we're not going to stop being passionate about somebody we like because somebody doesn't like it, right? Like, it's like it would be the equivalent of you know, you're a huge basketball fan. Obviously, you have a team, but you've always, you know, as a player, you're a huge LeBron fan. But if people don't like LeBron, that's not going to make you all of a sudden, a lot of people don't like him. Maybe I shouldn't like him, right? Like you're going to say, well, you know what? I'm dug in even more now. And I think a lot of us who are in the crew are dug in and we defend her, but it does bring her some resentment. And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you feel that or not, but I do. I've been in Reddit boards, I've been in message boards, I've been on the Observer, and we're gonna get to him here in a sec, in the Observer message board, where it's like I remember when they did the match in Brooklyn. So I'm going to give back to you, but I gotta, because it leads into the tweet that you got to respond to, and I really want to cover it because I have my own data for that. So when they had the Brooklyn match, we could all agree that at the time, that was the best women's match most of us have ever seen in our life. That a fair statement? Okay.
yep.
Because unless you were a new all Japan head in the mid 90s, you've never seen a better women's match than that. And I can make the case it's just as good as any of them. Who cares? But this is where I'm going with this. The night that happened, I remember how excited I was about how great that match was. So I was like looking for reviews of it because I'm like, okay, this is pre wrestling Twitter. I mean, Twitter was still a thing in 2015, but it isn't what it is today. And I didn't know a lot of the people I know today through the wrestling community. I was a real basketball Twitter person at that point. So I was like, okay, I thought this was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Did other people feel that way? So I go online, I see a lot of like, oh, that was great. That was great. I texted my friends who are wrestling fans. They're like, that was amazing. Okay, so now I'm waiting. Let me listen to Keller. Let me listen to Live Audio Wrestling. Let me listen to, Wrestling Observer. And so I listened to it. And there's a guy, he's written a book about women's wrestling. His name is Pat Laporte. He's from Montreal. He's a huge women's wrestling historian. He wrote a book about women's wrestling. And by the way, Sasha Banks is on the cover. So I have the book. I'll show it next week. So he's on with Uncle Dave and Brian. And he said, let me tell you, in the crowd, this was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. The first thing that those two guys said, you know what they said? Not that that match was unbelievable. Not that it was great. You know what they said? I wonder how many times they practiced that because
Yep.
they're developmental, right? It's like instead of just saying, hey, this was an amazing match, who gives a crap if they practiced it 1,000 times? Because you know what? Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat practiced their match.
They did.
Nobody has ever said, oh, that match was practice. So my point is, who cares? But that was their conversation. Like, I don't know who called it in the ring. I don't know who practiced it. Like, it wasn't like, hey, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then when the awards came out that year, if you have an Observer subscription, and I've been a subscriber for a long time, you can go in and read the comments about the match. The match got the most first place votes for match of the year, the most. His review says a lot about the company that the best match of the year is developmental women. Instead of just saying, hey, this is an awesome match, it was,
Right.
yeah, but. And I noticed that with her specifically, it's been, yeah, but her whole career. Her whole
So,
career.
and I'll let you get to Uncle Dave, but you're absolutely right. And that's why people who are fans of her go so hard and we won't relent. And do we probably piss off some people in the middle? Probably. But here's the way I look at it. Stone Cold Steve Austin became the biggest wrestling star in the history of the world and has never been topped at his peak off of the storyline that he was being held back by management because he was not he was not the one they wanted leading the scene. We have a lot of proof that Sasha Banks's career, Mercedes' career in WWE was a real life version of that for a very, very long time. And if you're a fan of hers, that resonates with you in a way where you're never letting go. Just like all those fans in 1999 and 2000 locked on to Stone Cold Steve Austin, damn the man. Mercedes fans have locked onto this concept, and maybe some of the times we're wrong and maybe some of the times we weren't, but we do know that there are plenty of scenarios where someone else was chosen. If
Mhm.
you look at Cage Match, she actually was immensely popular in 2015. Her number one voted year was 2015. She didn't have haters in 2015. 2016 and 17 is when you start to look through the comments and people are like overrated. Actually, funny enough, she started being called overrated once she was losing to Charlotte Flair every so often. So booking does matter on people's like psyche. It really does. But and I think now the mini run she had pre-injury in NJPW and how fantastic all those matches were, and now the run she's had in AEW and how kind of global she's put her flag down on this global change she's making in women's wrestling. Yeah, her fans are crowing louder than ever, but she's also proving out a lot of what we always knew was possible. And um, I just don't think, anyone who's been bought a ticket all that long ago, they're not getting off the money train early. You know what I'm saying? So um,
So about Cage Match, let me ask you a question. So it says here Mercedes is ranked. She
mhm.
has 1,071 votes at 8.61.
Yep.
And EO Sky has 900 votes at 9.53. Is that like like in you study this, is that huge gap in votes, 1,079
Yeah, it's 10%, and EO's been wrestling. How long's he? When did EO debut in Stardom?
but I think 2013, 2014, that area. But I mean,
So the so the
she's been
so the
wrestling
Japan
longer than Mercedes, yeah,
yeah,
or
the
at least on the
Japanese
conscious.
the Japanese shows get a lot of votes.
Yeah, okay.
So
I was
um
curious about like just how people look at that, because to me, I think we can do a whole podcast episode on the very and I'm a very big fan. Yeah, so Stephanie Vacour has a 9.28 rating with 272 votes. So
that's what I just looked up too. So yeah,
okay. I think
North America, you're not getting nearly as many votes.
I think there's a huge Joshi bias in the women's wrestling community, and I think
For
it's
sure.
both ways. I think if you're a fan of Joshi wrestling, it's the only good wrestling, and no other women can perform good. And if you don't like Joshi women's wrestling, then you go the other way. But I think it's more to the positive than the negative.
Yeah, Charlotte's got 950 votes, so 10% less than Mercedes as well.
Yeah,
Um,
but that
Bailey's at 827 votes.
uh, so so EO, who's not been in the public consciousness as long as Bailey in America, has more votes. So back to what you said about us going really hard and her being held down. I mean, these are not speculation things, these are facts. And I think the thing that frustrated me about the whole 2016 to 2019 main roster booking of her was that they wanted you if you own the company, you can put who you want over, right? That's your
Yep.
choice, right? Whether it's the smart decision or the dumb decision, that's your choice. But then to leak reports that, hey, this person's injury prone, or this person's difficult to do business with backstage, or this person has a bad attitude, or this person's not ready for the spotlight, or this, like, those are the things that pissed me off. Like, okay, you don't want to push her. What I should have done as a fan is I should just walked away from the company. I should be like, you know what? if you're not going to listen to us, like I've been in arenas, we want Sasha, I've been there. And if you're not going to push her, then I shouldn't watch your product because you're not listening to me. So that's my fault. That's not anybody else's fault. But it really pissed me off that it's like, okay, we're going to leak that she's negative backstage. She's a problem. And then well, she's not as big a star as Becky, which is going to go into Uncle Dave. And maybe she could be a bigger star than Charlotte, but they don't push her like it. So I can't put her above Charlotte. And it's like, before I get to the tweet that you got to respond to because you're not blocked and I am.
And you still paying observer
Yeah.
customer and been blocked
So,
for how
so,
long?
so I will admit this, and I don't care because I'm not going to give my source. So, and I don't know if you even listen to the podcast. I haven't been friends with this person in like 7 years, but I have his ID. So he has a grandfathered in Wrestling Observer subscription where you can add somebody to the account. So I have never actually paid for the thing since the 90s, but my password and my login still work. So here's the thing, right? He always would say, she's not Becky. She's not Becky. She's not Becky. And I know that a lot of that is because the scuttlebutt is Becky could be one of his sources, but he said she's never reached the heights of Becky Lynch as a star. But there's no actual empirical statistical data that says that's true, that Becky has surpassed her or is a bigger star than her. Becky's never drawn more ratings than her. Becky has the same amount of social media following she has. They both have their Hollywood stuff. They both have had sneakers stuff. They've both had, pop culture moments, Wild and Out, all this other stuff. So there's nothing that says on paper Becky's the bigger star other than Becky got the push, right? Like Becky got the push, like the real push, like the you're the face of the company push. But funny enough, when her face of the company push was happening and she won the titles from Ronda and Charlotte, and she was absolutely floundering as a babyface. As a top champion, she was floundering. She was drawing 2,000 people at house shows as the main event. And they needed Sasha Banks to come back and resurrect her title reign, right? Like she was drowning. She had an awful match with Natty in the Air Canada Center at the time, now Scotiabank Arena, that you attended live.
I was there, yeah.
Nobody cared. And the match was so mediocre that the next night, when the blue hair Sasha Banks returned, she got a Pavlovian response, beat both of them up with chairs, and got cheered. And in that feud with Becky, she split the audience. It was a 50-50 split every time they touched. So I don't want to hear that Becky was ever a bigger star, but that's what people write. That's what people write. Okay.
So Becky never main evented one single show that drew the amount of people Sasha Banks drew in November of 2016.
That is very
and that was when Sasha was the highest, call it July to November was the moment where they could have strapped the rocket and blessed her with one pay-per-view win, and they didn't, and they wouldn't do it.
I was at the Staples Center the night she won the title, October, I think 3rd or October 5th against Charlotte. She was one of the most over people in the building. That was a roster that included Chris Jericho, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens,
Dean Ambrose,
John Cena. I mean, this was a loaded roster then. Loaded. If you look at that roster now, you're like, whoa, they had all these people? She was as over as anybody. She had as much shirts in the crowd. She has as much signs in her. She was over. The next week in Oakland, she opened the show. She was very over. Go back and watch that, right? Go back and watch the pop she got. She was so over that they put Roman Reigns with her to get Roman Reigns over. And that was actually written in the Observer by somebody, but that same person says she was almost a big star, but she was never like, so now let's get to this weekend. So there's an award in this publication called the Lou Thesz Ric Flair Award for Wrestler of the Year. And it's supposed to be about who had the best in-ring gear. Like the wrestler, male or female, who had the best year, meaning the highest quality matches that had the most attention, whatever. Past winners have included, obviously, Ric Flair, Cody Rhodes, Daniel Bryan. Roman Reigns has won the award.
Will Ospreay.
Ospreay's won the award. A lot of people. So somebody, I think it might have been you. I don't know if he responded to you directly, but somebody said, what about Mercedes, right? Like he named
he listed like
10
yeah. He had Cena and Cody on there, for crying out loud. Stunk up WrestleMania.
He had a bunch of people, and then somebody said, well, what about Mercedes? And he goes, it's clearly that Storm and Ripley are the two biggest women's stars in wrestling. I'm looking for the front runner, not somebody who's in the top 10. She has a top 10 case. Okay. Look, we have chronicled this on this podcast multiple times. Nobody today in 2025, Mercedes Moné is not a bigger star than Rhea Ripley. She isn't. That's not debatable. We're not debating that. Would you agree?
So yeah, but she's, for this award, she's
but
the definition of the award, but she's not a bigger.
She didn't even get a vote, right? For this award, we had one. If you want to count the EO match where she lost the title, fine. That's 2 matches, but she's had, 2 really, really good matches this year and a lot of just whatever. But this isn't.
Rhea could post a video of herself putting eyeliner on and get 9 million views in the next hour. So yes, she is the biggest.
This is not about who is the biggest star in terms of draw. This is who's the best in-ring performer.
Right.
So he said Storm is the biggest star, one of the 2 biggest stars in women's wrestling. Okay. And this is the problem with journalism in 2025 is nobody's going to hold him accountable and say, okay, prove it. You told us that Storm and Ripley are the 2 biggest stars. Tell me how Storm is in the category of Rhea Ripley. She has less Instagram. And I know everybody's like, oh, Instagram. Okay. Instagram followers are different from men than they are women. So women are going to have more followers than men. I'm not even debating that. So if somebody tells me, well, Stephanie Vaquer has more followers than Gunther, of course she does. And she will have more followers than Gunther. That's obvious. Toni Storm has less Instagram followers than Lola Vice, Stephanie Vaquer, and a lot of other women in WWE. Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss has 10 times almost 10 times the followers that Toni Storm has.
Yep.
I could make an easy case that Alexa Bliss is a much bigger star in wrestling than Toni Storm is. Much bigger. Really, it isn't close. Toni Storm has a tremendous wrestling character in All Elite Wrestling. It's a great character for television.
She should continue to win Gimmick of the Year.
Yes, she is the best gimmick. She might even Danny, I know he listens to the show. He tweets a lot. He has a lot of good thoughts. He said she's the best promo in the business. I agree with him. I don't disagree. I think she is the best promo in the business because I thought about it. Who cuts a better promo than she does consistently? Okay. Right. But that's not what this is, right? If you're going to tell me she is the biggest star, one of the 2 biggest women's stars in the world, I need some data. Is her merchandise there? Well, you know what? Let me tell you, I went to Hot Topic this weekend and I did some recon work and I asked the person, I said, look, all these women's shirts is Rhea Ripley, there's Toni Storm, and there's Mercedes Moné. So there was only 3 women's shirts in this store. I said, can you tell me who sells the most? And the person said, Rhea Ripley outsells the other 2 times 4. Okay, fine. Then Mercedes, then Toni Storm. Now people are going to be like, well, you're in El Paso. There's an Eddie Guerrero time. Well, you know what? We were in that crowd. Toni Storm was very over in that crowd in El Paso. So I don't want to hear that it was, it's a city thing. Toni Storm is great for All Elite Wrestling as a character. She's phenomenal. She does great work. But
at the heart of that crowd, yes.
But to make this judgment that she is one of the 2 biggest women's stars, when I could make an easy case that Stephanie Vaquer is a bigger star, Alexa Bliss is a bigger star, Io Sky is a bigger star, Nikki Bella is definitely a bigger star. Nobody's going to argue with
Bianca Belair is absolutely a bigger star.
Morgan, Naomi, Tiffany. I mean, here's the thing, and this is the advantage of the machine. You could be here, and the machine can get you here. right? Like to me, I feel like Tiffany, and I'm a fan of Tiffany, her run as champion has been but she's in the machine and she's very over in the machine. So she's a big deal. Io Sky got as much a reaction as Rhea Ripley in a feud with Rhea Ripley. So you cannot tell me that Toni Storm is a bigger star if somebody can get the same level of cheers as Rhea. So my thing is, I get he's never going to give Mercedes the credit as a draw.
And that's what this is about. It's not against Tony. It's just
Yeah,
he always finds a way to kneecap Mercedes.
he's never, ever, ever, ever said that she's a draw in anything. He has never given her the credit. When she drew at Charlotte, again, outdoing Goldberg, it was, this is the first time we could definitively say women's wrestling draws. Yet that match did more numbers than any single Becky match, but Becky's a draw. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really makes no sense. And this is why what we do is very important, because we have to bring sanity and truth to this. Because and the other thing that has frustrated me over the last week is this whole notion that her winning these titles is bad for professional wrestling. No, it isn't. Was Floyd Mayweather winning every match bad for boxing? No, he carried the sport for 10 years. He was him and Manny Pacquiao were the two draws of the sport, right? Yep. And Manny Pacquiao was a draw because his fights were always so exciting. And Floyd Mayweather was a draw because he was an ass and he never lost. And that's how you draw money. To me, the story is when she loses, it'll be a big deal to the person she loses to. And then subsequently, every other person she loses to, it'll be part of the story because people will have this bent up anger to see her lose. And then, there's always these comments, well, when she loses, she'll just walk out. And, I know a lot of people who watch any type of sporting endeavor, they don't really take risks for themselves. They're fine with being, in the matrix, as they say, doing what is told of them and never taking a chance. But, this is a woman who, let's call it what it is, man. She took a hell of a chance to walk out on the biggest wrestling company in the world by far and go to New Japan, broke her leg or foot, and then that company still offered her a contract to come back.
She could have crawled back and said, ooh, that was scary out there. Let me go backwards.
Let me go back, right? But she took a chance. She went to AEW. And, to pin the struggles, the rating struggles of AEW on her is unfair. A lot of what happened to AEW was when CM Punk left. That was the huge hurt that hurt AEW, right? And they're starting to recover, but it's really hurt them. But like for me, the thing that I want to say to everybody out there is use some common sense and just don't let the noise of all these podcasters brainwash you. If you don't like her, fine. You have every right not to like her. You have every right to say her fans overrate her. You have every right to say she's not as good as people say she is. That's fine. That's an opinion. It's art. It's subjective to the person watching. That's fine. But to then, folks say she's hurting the business, which is a lie. And, for people to say, hey, she's not drawing anything. And, people are going to look at, well, when she got there, AEW was at 700,000, and when she's there, they're at 700,000. They're missing the point. They're missing the point. She's never gotten any type of momentum from a television standpoint in AEW to really grow the audience, which, by the way, when she does actually bring in a new viewer that doesn't normally watch.
Every single time that she's had a program, the Willow stuff drew, the Brit stuff drew, the Chris stuff started to draw, but that was stop-start. They threw that second match together. If they would have connected the first match with the second match better, it would have drew better. And Tony and her have been drawing actually very well for the last month. Anytime that they've told a story where, and her and Harley were drawing. So anytime they've told a story where week to week her fans could be like, I wonder what's going to happen with her and Willow. I wonder, oh, are her and Britt going to face off? She has drawn. There's so many men that Tony has thrown a lot of money at that he's added to the roster that get to skate by on, and their quarter hours lose, by the way. So I don't really care about the 600,000 people watch, 700,000 people watch. You got high paid wrestler, male wrestler A, high paid male wrestler B, high paid male wrestler C. Flat if they're lucky, losing viewers. She's up 8% in her quarter hour. She's drawn because she's got a tide going against her. And I think before we move on to WWE and Queen of the Ring and all that's going on over there, I know some of the people who listen to us all the time, some of our friends, probably think we're giving Uncle Dave too much airtime and too much breath, but I think you nailed it. So if you're annoyed that we've given the Observer this much of our energy, it's important that these things are debunked because so long he's been able to just say something and it's the truth. You know, in 2017, him saying Mercedes wasn't a draw, Mercedes is injury prone, made it real. It was never true, but what he said made it real. And I respect the hell out of her because she don't care. You know what? She don't care. She don't lose any sleep over that man. But she also knows that her fans will fight some of those battles. But it is important. You said it. It is important to push back on some of these narratives that are just not based on fact whatsoever, and never were.
Well, I'm not giving it. I'm not giving it the airtime to say, go read it. It's the gospel. But the problem is, we as wrestling fans have given that publication so much power that, and I know this is gonna sting a little bit, but I remember the day that the triple threat at Mania got the 5. And if you went into Reddit that day or whatever the message boards I was in, it was like, where's Sasha Banks's 5-star match? That she's the
Right.
best wrestler in the world. Where's her 5-star match? She have one. Oh, everybody keeps telling me Becky's the best. Well, where's Becky's 5? Like, people literally were like, yeah, we don't like this publication, but when it serves their purpose to prop up their favorite, then it's the Bible, right? And
Yep.
to me, what I would tell everybody is make your own judgments and your own assessments, but understand how wrestling works. The better the heel, the greater the heel, the better the babyface that beats them.
And the gate draws.
I can do an hour on a history lesson of this, but in 1989, in 1989, when Ricky Steamboat came back to NWA, and in the first match back, he pinned Ric Flair in a tag match, they drew nothing but money. That feud drew nothing. It was probably the last money drawing feud that company had until Macho Man and Ric Flair did it like 6 years later. Like it was the last kind of thing they had before they got sold to WCW. And it was like, why did that work so much? Because Ricky Steamboat beat the big bad heel. Ricky Steamboat also beat the big bad heel in Macho Man. Remember when Lex Luger beat Hulk Hogan on Nitro? The pop that Lex Luger got in Detroit? That's what people are missing here. The woman who beats Mercedes, either for the TBS title, the Women's World title, the CML, it doesn't even matter what it is going to be a made woman. And that's how wrestling works. If everybody wins and loses like the 50-50 Vince McMahon booking, that's why nobody cared. That's why nobody why Roman Reigns worked? I know you love the big dog Roman Reigns, but the big dog Roman Reigns drew nothing.
I like the way he wrestled.
Yeah, but the tribal chief, that's a money draw. Why? Because he never lost until he lost. And then when he lost, there are videos of people celebrating. That's what it's going to be. When Mercedes loses, there are going to be people who are partying. Great. You took the hook. You fell for it. That's what wrestling is about. You want to see the big bad heel lose. So I don't get why
And
people.
you got to care that she lost, not be
Yeah,
indifferent
yeah.
to it.
I know we got to go to WWE. So the last thing, and I've said this again, I don't know. So Laron, he's an avid listener of our show. He listens every week. He's a great guy, smart guy. He asked me to answer a question that I posted. I said, Io and Stephanie Vaccora are bigger stars right now than Toni Storm. Prove it. Okay, so I will prove it. They have more social media followers than Toni. They sell more t-shirts than Toni, and they draw more ratings than Toni. I don't know what else to say that those three things they outperform her in. Now, if the argument is, well, they have the machine, then you can't compare any AEW women wrestler to a WWE wrestler, right?
Yeah.
At some point, you got to look at the numbers. Stephanie is a big draw. I've proven the numbers, and Io's a big draw too when she wrestles.
It's hard to compare any of them to WWE. What I will say is, this is not, I'm not trying to make it seem, it's not about pushing Toni down, but Toni did this Road Warrior thing in between losing to Mariah and coming back. She wrestled in Mexico. She wrestled in Japan, and there were matches on a card, but they didn't up subscribers. They didn't, draw pay-per-view numbers and stuff. She was part of the attraction. It's got the best gimmick in the sport, best promo in the sport, best character in the sport, some of the best TV around. But as we know from doing this podcast, doing what we do in business, the number one measurement of fandom is, are people willing to spend money on you, not do they clap for you when you come on TV. There are a lot of people that are over that don't sell any merchandise and maybe don't sell any tickets on their own, but people like them. It's easy to clap for them. Oh, a true draw, selling shirts, selling tickets. Rev Pro, their next show in Wolverhampton, which doesn't even sound like a real place. I love the British cities. You guys got the best city names. Wolverhampton is what I think it is. Huh?
No, I mean there's a lot.
Oh
of
yeah. So Wolverhampton show that she's going to be on. Ticket prices, and I'm not trying to sound like the WWE thing is like, oh, we made our fans pay more, but they're able to charge more for a ticket at a show Mercedes is at versus the last show there.
So before we get to the week that is, here I have a list of the top 10 women's merchandise sellers in WWE. Have you seen this list?
How recent is it?
Today.
Not today's list, no.
Okay. So I'm going to read it. Number 10, Tiffany Stratton. Number 9, Liv Morgan. Number 8, Bianca Belair. Number 7, Io Sky. Number 6, Naomi. Number 5, Nikki Bella. Number 4, Asuka. Number 3, Alexa Bliss. Number 2, Rhea Ripley. Number 1, the Supernova, Stephanie Vaccora. So if Stephanie Vaccora for the last 2 months, this is a 2-month compilation, can outsell Rhea Ripley, there's no metric that can tell me Toni Storm right now is a bigger star than her. None.
I knew you were getting to that, but I think the best segue, strong return for Asuka, man. Number 5, and she's been back for a week. Welcome back, Asuka, the Empress of Tomorrow.
Welcome back, Asuka. And, maybe
a legitimate case for a Mount Rushmore. We're not doing the Mount Rushmore thing here, but if you put Asuka on your all-time women's Mount Rushmore, no one's really allowed to call you stupid. So, she's one of the candidates.
I agree that when I did mine, which was, Toyota, Banks, Becky, or Mercedes, Becky, Io, the only reason I put Io over Asuka is I think Io has a better, I know people are going to laugh at this. No, they can't even laugh at it. Io had a better Japanese career than Kana did. Because it's not Asuka's fault, by the way. Stardom wasn't a thing when Asuka started wrestling. So she was like freelance Japanese women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Io was kind of who Stardom was built around.
Yeah.
before Mayu Iwatani, right? It was Kairi, Io, and Mayu were kind of the three. And Io had the Lucha Underground appearance, which really kind of put her on the map. And Asuka never had that. Asuka at that point was still kind of freelancing. Now, NXT Asuka, I could make a case as the best women's NXT wrestler of all time. Like it's either her, Io, or Sasha Banks. Those are the three for me. Bailey's up there too. That'd be my Mount Rushmore of women's wrestlers in NXT. But I think Io on the main roster has been booked better than Asuka.
I think the WrestleMania match, pre that WrestleMania win, I think Asuka had the better WWE career, and you're like, okay.
Even with the Bailey match?
Yeah, Asuka has the Charlotte match, which was
it was good.
No,
though.
it's not. It's a great match, but first Royal Rumble winner, things like that.
Io's never won a Royal Rumble.
Right.
Asuka won maybe the worst Money in the Bank concept of all time, right?
Yeah.
Asuka's won everything, right? Like I love Asuka, and I don't even know why I'm saying a bad thing about her, but in Damage Control, she was Io's sidekick.
And can Asuka win Queen of the Ring? And that's the question. So,
okay,
hot off the presses.
Yeah, Asuka, Jade Cargill, the finals of the Queen of the Ring. We don't make this podcast to critique, the women who aren't great performers in the ring. But I gotta tell you something. If you can't have a good match with Roxanne, I don't know what to tell you. Right? And like Roxanne was trying out there with Jade, man. You know she trained Jade? Do you know that?
I do.
And I'm watching this match and I'm like, man, Roxanne's working. But like she tried to do she did the power bomb, then she was gonna do it again, then she didn't know what to do, then turned her around, then gave her, and I was like, okay. Jade Asuka. Asuka's the heel, isn't she?
Yeah. So for everyone listening to this, we just watched Jade Roxanne. It's Monday night when we're recording, and we watched Becky Bailey. Raj is right. We're not here to critique. The further up the card Jade goes, something's got to click, though. You know what I mean? So the match wasn't bad. Roxanne had her working boots on. But again, I'll just say the further up the card Jade goes, hopefully some of this stuff starts to click. And maybe Asuka's more her speed. They could do a more slug it out type of match. Asuka looked pretty crisp in her first match back. I will say, God, this is another critique. I rewatched Raquel take Asuka's new finishing move versus, and that was first actually, and then Alexa took it on SmackDown, not as well, we'll say. Then they showed the replay of Asuka winning the match against Raquel last week, the multi-woman match. Props to Raquel, man. She put her face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she let Asuka blow her up, and the difference between that move when someone's protecting their face versus where it's just like hit me is like, I mean, it looks like a great finisher the way Raquel took it. But Asuka Jade, I actually don't know who's going to win. They could go either route. So well done there. I don't know for sure who's going to win.
I am sticking to my prediction here. It's Asuka because Jade is going to get caught. This is my opinion. Naomi is going to cost Jade the match. It's going to set up Naomi Jade at Evolution. Mm-hmm. Last woman standing. It's Jade's hometown. Jade will get the win only because we know Naomi's going to cash. And when somebody has a briefcase, they lose before they cash. Then they win. Yeah. Jade is going to lose because Asuka and Io teased the segment tonight.
Yep.
They don't do that if there isn't something coming. Because remember, when Io and Liv got teased, people are like, what's this? By the way, Liv Morgan, prayers, Liv, we miss your work. You are phenomenal.
One of the MVPs of wrestling the last 2 years.
Division, in my opinion. You had the best character. You cut great promos. You had really good matches. You were captivating. You were asked to do a lot. And I cannot blame Triple H for the Evolution card being in tethers right now, simply because Liv was factored into a lot of the plans. So Saturday night's main event, Night of Champions now, Io was supposed to wrestle Liv Morgan. Io's not even on the card now. There's two women's matches, hot off the presses. Raquel, Rhea, street fight.
Street fight, yep.
And Jade, Asuka. I think Asuka's winning. I think it's Queen Asuka. She's won every other award in WWE except Queen of the Ring. She's never won it. I think Asuka wins Queen of the Ring. I think she fights Io at SummerSlam. I think Io fights Stephanie Vacour at Evolution. I don't know how they get there. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's Nikki Bella. I don't know now, because that's the other thing, right? Nikki Bella was supposed to fight Liv Morgan at Evolution. So
right.
Who knows? But I think putting Queen of the Ring on Jade is a huge mistake, because nobody wants. I am a huge Tiffany fan. I don't want to see Tiffany ever wrestle Nia Jax or Jade Cargill again. I need Tiffany to have a different feud, because Tiffany has beaten Bayley. She's beaten Roxanne in her title reign. She's beaten Charlotte. She's actually in the WWE. She's has the best winning percentage this year. She hasn't lost. She hasn't got pinned at all. So I think Asuka's going to win Queen of the Ring. I could see Jade winning it, but I want it to be Asuka. I think Asuka Io is a legitimate dream match, which, by the way, got 4.25 stars on the SmackDown. I got to go back and watch that match. I don't remember it. I know it happened, but I don't remember it.
When did it happen? Was it during the Damage Control breakup?
It was when Asuka was a babyface before she turned to join Damage Control.
Oh,
and Io was the champion. So I want to see Io and Asuka have a match in New Jersey, because the crowd will eat it up. The crowd will be hot. They'll tear the house down. But I'm very heartbroken about the Liv Morgan thing. Liv Morgan was so vital to that division, because, the way Mercedes played that heel, Liv Morgan's just a great bad girl. She's just great at it. She's so good. Speaking of, I guess your draft pick, which still bothers me, but Io, I have a sneaky suspicion Io was injured. They didn't tell anybody, and they just kind of hid it, but they made her appear on TV and do physical stuff, because there is no explanation for Io not to have a match since that tear she was on, where triple threat, Vacour, Roxanne, tag match. Like, she was on fire.
Yep.
And they just said, nah, you're one of the hottest things we have going. We're just going to cool you off for no reason. So this is just my opinion, and I'll let you chime in. I think she was hurt or dealing with something, and she was going to fight Liv at Night of Champions. And Nikki Bella was going to cost Liv the match in some capacity. And that was going to set off the Bellas against Raquel and Liv, and Io was going to fight somebody else. That's what I think was supposed to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, that all makes sense. I wonder, they got out of WrestleMania and they had Io putting on, Sheamus would say, banger after banger after banger. And then it's just like, she just don't wrestle. She don't wrestle in tags. She don't take bumps. I mean, she's not even out in the ring. She's mostly backstage segments. So, it wouldn't, you hope she's not injured. And if so, it's just they're being, cautious. But the other part of me that wants to debunk that says Triple H isn't good at booking champions. He sucks at it, actually. He's the worst booker of babyface champions in the history of planet Earth. He sucks at it.
He's worse than 2016 Sasha Banks, who tapped out with 1 second left and she could have kept the title.
That was that that was not bad booking. That was murder. That was murder. A murder.
So
Yeah,
it's bad booking.
yeah, but that was purposeful. My point is, you look at none of these baby faces have had good, certainly not for the women.
Do you think Tiffany has had a good run?
No,
Even
no.
though she's
Now
at least she wins. She's
she
on.
wins.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Tiffany's had a bad run. Um, Bailey went from the number three selling shirt at WrestleMania to cooled off
Yeah.
by SummerSlam, where she lost to Nia Jackson. Everyone was like, okay, cool, well, that's the end of that. I mean, like, because he doesn't book baby faces well, because he's probably not a good person at heart at all. And so he can't relate, like he just can't figure out how someone would be a good baby face. He just doesn't
I
work.
think this is just so my opinion is I think he is good at booking baby faces on the rise to get the
Uh
title.
Totally.
I think he's great at the chase. When they
Terrible at
win, he's basically the booking version of Sting, the wrestler. Sting was
yeah.
great until he gets the title, and then when he gets the title, he's cooled off. I think if Io didn't have this, I think if Io didn't have that, I think she'd be dead in the water because honestly, like the segment with Liv, that was fantastic. Like
Yeah.
she held her own and she came across like a badass. Like when she had the line about you can't steal this title like you did Dirty Dom, I was like, oh, Io, okay, they're giving you some good material. And she kicked Dominic in the head and she got Dominic booed.
Yep.
And Dominic was getting cheered every week. And finally, Io was like, okay, I can do this. And she got him booed again, which was great. Um, yeah, Tiff. So the thing with Tiffany is I don't know if her reign is good because she's fought the same people nine
Yeah. I mean,
times. She beat Charlotte, she beat Roxanne, she beat Bailey. She's beaten. I don't know who else she's beaten. She might have beat Chelsea. I don't know, but to
no,
me,
Chelsea and Zelina have been fighting each other on Spam, right? Until recently.
oh, but speaking of women's matches, we got two on Friday in Saudi Arabia. We got for the US title, Zelina defending her title against Julia. You want a prediction of this match? I got a quick one here.
Splat.
Yeah, this is Triple H doesn't retweet anybody's stuff. He retweets everything about Julia. And I'm like, he's Julia's getting the push, and I'm a huge Julia fan, so I couldn't be happier. But I know there are a lot of people who are like, why her? Like, what is it? But she's getting reactions now on main event and stuff, which is good. But I think she beats Zelina, and I think it's great because I think we have a worker as the champion, which is good. Um, does Naomi cash in it in Saudi Arabia?
Nia Tiffany.
So here's my
So
big
so
yeah,
so Tiffany cashed in on Nia Naomi, correct?
exactly. Wow.
So it's full circle, and it's on a location. The only reason not to do it would be to tell a story with Jade.
And that's what's gonna happen. Tiffany and Nia are gonna be laid out. Naomi's gonna run to the ring. She's about to cash, and Jade's gonna jump her. Because Jade is gonna be in Saudi Arabia too, because we know Jade's wrestling the next night.
Yeah.
And we know they all travel together. So to me, Jade costs Naomi the title. Tiffany retains. And it could simply be
Pre-cash in though, right? She
free
still has the
cash in. Yeah, yeah.
briefcase.
No.
Okay.
Naomi's going to cash in and win the brief. He's going to win the title. No doubt. But I don't think you should do a cash in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I just don't think you should do it. I think an American crowd deserves that moment. Okay, so Jade costs Naomi. Naomi gets beat up, laid out. She doesn't get cashed in on. Tiffany wins. Last woman standing. They count to 10. She wins. And then the next night, Naomi costs Jade. Those are my predictions for the two matches. Evolution, I will say this, for an event I had a lot of hopes for, there's one match announced, and it's the NXT women's title. I don't know what the main roster matches are. And again, I get it. The live thing probably threw a wrench into the program, but still, to me, this is the biggest problem of running so many events close together. You kind of get that muddled booking where it's on top of each other and you don't really get to tell a consistent story. I'm excited to go back and watch the EO Asuka segment that they had tonight on Raw. But for me, so let's talk a little bit about Becky and Bayley. We saw the match.
Real quick.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say Becky Bayley. I think we definitely need to dive into that. You did bring up Rhea Raquel in a street fight being on the United Champions card. So credit where credit's due. That's exactly what we asked them to do with Rhea, right? There's no title at stake. It's Rhea Ripley, so it's on a PLE, and it's going to be and basically she got to do what she did at WrestleMania. She went into Adam Pearce's office and was like, "I want a match. I want it at Night of Champions. Boom, you're Rhea Ripley. Here's your match." I think being the biggest woman star in the world, it's a great way to use her because we're going to get a second or hopefully third women's match more often than second on some of these bigger cards because she's not wrestling for the belt at SummerSlam. She's going to be on the damn card, right? And that's an event that both women's titles will be defended on. So I like what they're doing with Rhea. Keep her away from the title, but keep her in the spotlight. That's exactly how I would use her. But yes, Becky Bayley, go ahead.
I loved the match.
It was really good.
I thought they were having a hell of a match. It's probably the second best Becky Bayley match I've seen since the 2015 match they had at NXT for the number one contender spot. And this match might be better. I have to go back and watch both side by side. I just remember that one more. I thought Bayley looked crisp. His first match she's wrestled.
Light on her feet.
Yeah, she looked good. Becky's been really good since she's returned. I enjoyed the match. I thought they did some cool reversals. They told a really good story. I felt the animosity between both of them. Again, my frustration, I said it earlier about dumb baby faces with Catalina. This was dumb. You have Lyra here, who her whole objective is to make sure Becky loses the title. Then she actually is the one who helps Becky.
Right.
She just, and honestly, she came across really annoying, and she came across like a heel, like an annoying heel. Like, why are you out here? And if you are, what are you doing?
Well, Becky kicked her. The way that they did it made it way more annoying. So Becky kicks her.
Mm-hmm.
Then Bayley gets the upper hand. Not only does Bayley get the upper hand, she throws her over the table. Then she throws her into the post. Then she throws her into the side of the ring. Then she hits her again.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 full minutes have passed since Becky hit Lyra, and Bayley's fully in control. Has her down on the mat for the Macho Man elbow drop. So it's not even like Becky was beating Bayley up and Lyra's like, well, I'm just going to hit her because she hit me. Like, Bayley's in control. And a lot of time has passed. I knew it was a non-finish. We all knew it was a non-finish, but the layout was incredibly annoying. Just stupid babyface stuff, like you were saying.
Yeah, it was dumb. I hated it, and I understand they're probably gonna do a three-way evolution, probably three-way.
Hey, it'll be the second match booked once we get it.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I feel like in that match, you're gonna see something happen. Either Lyra turns on Bayley, or it's gonna be something like that. I don't know, but I will say this. I think the dreams of Tony Storm and Mercedes main eventing are gone. I think it's over at this point. But I will say this for Tony. In order for you as AEW being the absolute underdog number 2 promotion in this race, The one thing you can do to get some of the upper hand back is book women.
Mm-hmm.
Because while WWE, I think, does a phenomenal job on TV of booking women, I do think they lack at the PLEs. Like, we have a thing called Night of Champions. And two of the six matches, no, three of the six matches don't have titles.
Right.
Right. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, somebody, I'm going to read this match card. It's like, we have, you have Rhea Ripley, Raquel in a street fight. You have Jade, Asuka, Queen of the Ring. Cody Rhodes, spoiler alert, he beat Jey Uso tonight. He fights Randy Orton for the King of the Ring. And then what's the other match? There's Sami Zayn against Karrion Kross is Night of
Yep.
Champions. And
I see Brock tweeted us while we're recording
yeah,
that Karrion Kross is on the show and the women's champions are not on the show. And you're right, Brock. It's bullshit.
yeah, I mean, I get Tiffany's wrestling Nia on the SmackDown before Night of Champions. But what's Io doing? Like, is she like, if Io takes a trip to Saudi Arabia, and now I'm gonna be fair here, because I don't know, because Io's wrestled. No, I can't even use that excuse. I was gonna say, well, what if Io doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, which is they give you as a wrestler the right? That's BS. Io's wrestled there like 4 times, so she's beat Bianca in Saudi. She actually, I think, is undefeated in Saudi Arabia. So that doesn't even work. So I have no comments anymore up at this point. I'm to the point beyond frustrated. I'm just like, okay, I know you guys like Io. I know she sells merchandise. I know she's popular. She's over. She does Minute Maid commercials for you guys. She does signings. She has the emote thing. But her gift is wrestling. I don't understand why you take the thing that she's the best at out of her toolbox. Like, it doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. And look, Karrion Kross is over. I'm not a big fan of his. Like, he doesn't do anything for
He
me.
got a pop tonight. I'm gonna
Right,
be honest. He got a
right. But
pop.
he is over. He sells a lot of merchandise. He's selling merchandise. He has a thing going. Fine. But then don't call the pay-per-view Night of Champions. Because the concept of Night of Champions was every title is defended. And on this show, 2 titles are defended. I think. No. What are the 6 matches? Do you have the card?
Yes. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Asuka, Jade Cargill, John Cena, CM Punk,
Yeah.
Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa. Those are the 2 title matches. Cena, Punk, and Jacob and Solo.
Oh, okay. So,
I mean, besides the Queen of the Ring, and thanks for the Rhea. I'll watch a Rhea Raquel fight.
I actually think Rhea
Great.
Raquel might be the best. I think there's a good chance Rhea Raquel is the best match on the card.
Yep.
Because honestly, like, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, I know that match. I can tell you that match without even watching it. It's
You
going
can call it
slow prodding, because Randy Orton works at Randy Orton's pace. He's not moving. He's not changing for anybody.
Do Cena and Punk have a great match left in them?
I think I think they will do smoke and mirrors to make us think it's a great match. I think that the way they did Orton Cena, that's what this match will be. Cena can barely bump at this point, if we're being honest. Like, he can barely bump. So to me, I love the nostalgia of CM Punk and Cena. I saw the Money in the Bank match in Chicago, the classic 5-star Money in the Bank match. I'm happy that CM Punk gets to wrestle Cena. He is one of Cena's all-time opponents. But I gotta be honest, I know we don't. This is not the topic about the Cena reverse pipe bomb, which I actually liked. But knowing the match isn't going to deliver, it doesn't really do much for me, because I have not liked one Cena match since he returned. I thought the Orton match was as good as he's gonna do. Maybe this match is better. Hopefully it is. I'm
Yep.
excited for Rhea Raquel because I think that the story with Roxanne and Raquel is going to be told. I think Rhea's losing, and I think she's losing because of Roxanne.
Yep. I mean, they certainly planted that seed with the interaction with Raquel and Roxanne
What would
tonight.
you do if this was the match at Evolution? Raquel, Roxanne defending their tag belts against Rhea Ripley and Stephanie Vacour.
I mean, I'm not going to be mad at Rhea and Stephanie on the same team. It's, you know, but I actually, if they're going to have Roxanne take Liv's spot and actually carry her belt around, I think the better story is that they actually win. And when Liv comes back, Roxanne's like, no, I defended almost.
You can do that.
So
But isn't this the
uh,
Jade Naomi Bianca
that's
story?
what I was going to say. A little bit of that.
Yeah.
Um, you were saying Night of Champions, how Tony Khan could be different, um, and actually, put the women's match up on a pedestal. So we got a really good all-star tag match on Collision, with some of the pretty much all the great women in AEW besides Mercedes, Tony, Willow, and Chris. It was kind of the rest of that top, Megan Bain, Athena was there, um, Thekla, um, Penelope. It's late, my brains. But anyway, it almost, and then we got a Casino Gauntlet um, tease after that. That has to be for the women, right? I mean, they wouldn't put that right after the women's match and not have that be for the women, unless Tony is really as aloof to all that as we accuse him of being sometimes. You looking up the 8 women?
Yeah, it's Athena. Let me see.
I got it. Thunder Rosa, Queen Aminata, and Tay J. So that's Anna J and uh, Tay versus Athena, Thekla, Megan Bain, and Penelope Ford. And Athena pinned Thunder Rosa, I believe. But Athena, Megan Bain, Thekla, Queen Aminata, you got Thunder Rosa, you got some people who, we need to see them on the all in card. I think a casino gauntlet is fantastic. I'll be very angry if that's not a women's casino gauntlet because that came up right after the match. So it's a hell of a place to tease it if it's a men's one. You know what I mean? After an all-star 8 women's tag match. So similar thing. Tony's got work to do to build this all-in card, man, to have women's representation. If Tony and Mercedes aren't going to be in the main event, at least let them get momentum to build up this match to be as big as it can. Um, it's right there, but it needs a little more.
I think that Athena Thunder Rosa is the rumor on All In. That would be good. Both are Texas ladies. It's going to be they'll give it their all. It'll be a good match. I think sometimes when you have the riches of talent like you do in WWE, it's you've always said it's very top heavy. But I will say this: that's still no excuse for EO not having a match. Again, if EO is injured, then she's injured. And if they're trying to do this, well, we don't want to take the belt off her because we've got plans, but we don't want to tell you that she's hurt. I think it would have been better if they did tell us she was hurt.
Yeah.
But then, because then if people want to complain that, well, why isn't she defending the title? She's champ. They can always work around that storyline because they've done it in the past. I mean, Brock Lesnar wrestled once every 6 months of the belt.
Just announce a match. She's hurt right now, but she's wrestling at this date. That's all you got to do.
So to me, there's something that is not adding up here. And the only other thing I could think about, and I remember they did this with the 2016 Sasha Banks, which was they took, I don't know if you remember this, but after she lost at 32, but she didn't really lose, they just took her off TV. They just hit her for 3 months because they
Right.
didn't want to muck her up. It feels like to me that they don't want to beat other women on the roster, but they don't want to beat Io, so they're kind of like just holding off. And I think it's the wrong idea, but that's just
You've
how.
been saying they need middle card women who are good and can do stuff in the ring, but also take
Absolutely. Bring
losses.
on
And
bring
that's
on Britt Baker. I mean,
uh,
they need women who are going to do the job, but good at it.
can I end as we wrap up? Can I end us on a polarizing subject on which we stand on opposite sides of the fence,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll make a bold prediction? Our favorite, Alexa Bliss.
Mm-hmm.
She has not been world champion since 2018.
That is true. She lost to Ronda Rousey, hasn't won the belt since.
Will she ever be world champion again?
No, no. I think she will be champion again, but not.
US or Intercontinental or tag, yeah.
The only way I could see her being world champion is if she's telling them, "Hey, I'm done. I want that last hurrah." She's earned that. I know there's a lot of critique about my girl Little Miss Bliss and how she took the Asuka finisher, but I'm going to defend her here. Her face should not be touched. It's a Mona Lisa type painting. So you do not, I don't blame her. I'm with you, Alexa. Very nice to me at an autograph signing. I am with her on this. She should not, like she should almost do the "you can't touch my face" gimmick. That would be great for her.
Should so that's funny and ridiculous. I will take Little Miss Bliss's side on something else. I think the story she's cooking up with Charlotte is great stuff.
It is. It's
Great stuff.
great.
It's really, really good on Alexa's side. It's very compelling on Charlotte's side, more so than what they had her doing with Tiffany and just right back in the title picture. So I'm very excited. I think Charlotte's starting to work it very, very well. For those who missed, Charlotte um, beat. I know Piper was in the match.
Chelsea.
What was
No, she
it?
beat Chelsea.
She beat
It
Chelsea.
was
Piper just inter.
Chelsea. Piper
Yeah,
interfered after she won the match and beat
got
her.
it.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was like a handshake thing, and Charlotte wouldn't shake Alexa's hand. But I love what the two of them are doing. I think um, could lead to a feud, could lead to a great real tag team with some real story behind how they came together. So I'm
I
all for it.
I
I like
hope
what Alexa's doing.
I hope they become a team at some point, but I just think Alexa, there are a few women in WWE who don't need the title. Rhea Ripley is one. Alexa Bliss is actually the other. Charlotte Flair is probably there too, like Becky. Like Alexa Bliss is such a big star, she doesn't need the belt.
No, she doesn't. And the only reason I brought up the 2018 thing, and this is a compliment to Alexa, she may not have won the belt in 2018 was the last time she had it. But let me tell you the truth. Every Bayley fan, every Sasha Banks fan, and this is the hidden one, every Becky Lynch fan was afraid of Little Miss Bliss coming and getting that belt from 2019 to call it 2021. It was probably like, oh man, if Alexa's the next program, she's winning the belt. The only the only four horsewoman fan base that's actually never been afraid of Little Miss Bliss goes back to the story. Charlotte Flair's never had to be afraid of Little Miss Bliss.
Right. But now,
She
but now
she lawn darted her at Survivor
it
Series
is kind
at
of
her
crazy,
prime.
right? She beat Becky, then Bayley, then Sasha Banks in a row. Like in a row. Like she wiped them out in 2017. Alexa Bliss is a monster. Like, and not for the good reasons.
True story. The hardest I've ever rooted for Charlotte Flair was when she set Alexa on fire in that promo before Survivor Series. It's the worst. It is the it's the most anyone's ever burned Alexa up on the mic, had her stammering and stuttering, and then she stomped her in that match. And just as a Four Horsewoman fan, I was sick of Alexa
What
at the
was
time.
the promo that she cut on her? Because I don't remember it. I know she cut a really scathing promo on Alexa. I don't remember it.
She kind of just blew her off as like, yeah, it was almost so passive aggressive. I'll have to go back and watch it. We'll talk about it next week. But
Because
funny story though is I remember that match as like a squash because I just wanted to see Alexa lose. It
no,
wasn't, and actually Alexa said it's her favorite match ever.
it was actually probably, I think the best Alexa Bliss match personally
The
is it
best Alexa Bliss. Go
Great
ahead.
Balls of Fire.
Great Balls of Fire is her best match.
Great Balls of Fire is
Uh,
probably my favorite Alexa Bliss match against Sasha Banks. But if you're gonna argue against that, then it's probably Charlotte Alexa Bliss at Survivor Series. That's probably
but
it.
that was the biggest baby face in this house that Charlotte's ever been. That promo, that match, I was like, she might as well have been. She might
And
as well have
here's
been
the
Sasha at that
funniest
point.
part about that. I was cheering for Alexa Bliss. I was I was not I've never been Charlotte's biggest fan, so I was like, I just want to see Bliss knock all four horses. Like, you might as well knock them all off. Why not?
Don't worry, it didn't last long because by WrestleMania 2018 at Asuka, I was annoyed with Charlotte again already. So
Well, that was the reign of terror in a different way. But I will say this, I think that one of the all-time burial jobs that nobody ever talks about is the Elimination Chamber, where Sasha and Bailey as a team couldn't beat Alexa Bliss. Like, she outsmarted both of them, and it was awful.
because Bailey wanted to work together, and Sasha for the second PLE in a row decided to go rogue heel randomly in a match before she had the match wrapped up. Did it at Royal Rumble, got eliminated, kicked Mufasa Bailey at Elimination Chamber,
That was good.
and then ended up losing to
Super
to
DDT.
Bliss.
The Super DDT. Yeah,
Super DDT.
Alexa Bliss hasn't. I don't think Alexa Bliss has beaten Sasha Banks since that match. Like,
No,
that's
she
the last
didn't.
time she has beat her, but she caused enough damage to the Sasha Banks brand.
I will say on the flip side, Little Miss Bliss fans, I know you're out there. Y'all see blue-haired Sasha Banks in your nightmares, and so the script
Yeah,
absolutely flipped.
Sasha Banks was a menace to Alexa Bliss. Like, she beat
Yeah,
her every time. But honestly, I think this version of Mercedes Moné in the ring is definitely the best version of her for sure. But
oh
I
yeah,
think as a character, that run that she had from when she became Golden Role Models to when she never mysteriously showed up at SummerSlam is still my favorite iteration of her character. I'm
I
not
would
saying
agree.
best wrestling matches she was having, but as a character, I thought she cut some amazing promos. I thought she was very engaging. I thought she
Yeah,
dressed the part. She was good. Oh, by the way, Tony Storm has never been in a Pizza Hut commercial on Super Bowl Sunday with Roman Reigns, Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, Jimmy Johnson, and Mike Mike
Michael Strahan.
Mike Pereira, the ref.
Oh yeah.
So my point, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Um, that was her best run as a character. I will say there's something hiding in here in this AEW run character wise because that character that we saw at WrestleMania 37. Remember the Macho Man style promo she had the day of the match
Mm-hmm.
on the behind the scenes show that,
Yeah.
and it was the first we saw her hair color. I knew she was gonna have a classic that night when I saw that promo. I was like, "There's no way this match won't be amazing." I saw that same locked in character in the two promos before the Double or Nothing match against Jamie.
Yeah.
It's right there. They haven't let her unleash it yet against. So Tony had a great promo on Collision. I need to see the Mercedes that promo Jamie Hayter. Like that needs to be this week.
Because that's even that version of Mercedes cutting that promo against Jamie. I don't know if she can hang with Tony Storm, but it's the closest she's going to get to hang with Tony Storm if she can do that. Because like I said, when Tony gets into that accent and cuts her promos, she's unbelievable. And when she said, "You have to kill me," I've bled.
I just have to beat you. You have to kill me. That's a great line.
Great. She's just awesome. And again, I'm a huge Tony Storm fan. Oh, I'm a timeless Tony Storm fan. I don't know but the other stuff she's done, but I think that those two women have to, whatever, or their first, second, fifth, 10th, they got to go out there. They got to get 25 minutes. They got to tell a real story. And they can legitimately have one of the best women's matches of all time. With the right story. They absolutely can.
They just need the time. And the one thing Tony Khan has done perfectly for Mercedes, she gets her 20 minutes plus on pay-per-view with a good match. So I'm not worried about that. She ain't getting cut for time.
So on that note, I think we're gonna wrap up this week.
Yep.
We'll be posting it a day late. You'll get this tomorrow. And we'll be back at our regular time next week. Our numbers are growing. We appreciate it. We need the subscribers to grow those. So we appreciate all the streams. The streams are very, very needed. But even more needed is the subscriptions. That's what we need. And across all platforms, please, whatever platform you listen to us, we appreciate it. But please press the subscribe button. And we have some cool giveaways coming up in the future. And right now, for us, we'll have some surprises for you guys Evolution weekend. So on that note, see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.